The billionaire's son heard the cleaning woman's crying and said something unbelievable. Linda Johnson had never imagined that a day of work could turn into a nightmare. The sound of her tears echoed through the mansion's wide hallway as she tried to clean up the shards of the crystal vase that had shattered on the marble floor. It was then that she heard the cruel laughter coming from the top of the staircase. Ethan Richardson, only 9 years old, was coming down the steps with a wicked smile on his face, pointing his finger at her while laughing mercilessly. "Look at this dummy! She broke Grandma's vase!" shouted the boy, clapping his hands as if it were a show. Linda lowered her head, her hands trembling as she gathered the pieces. That vase cost more than she earned in 6 months. She knew the value would be deducted from her salary, money she desperately needed to buy medicine for her 5-year-old daughter Emily, who was hospitalized with respiratory problems. "Ethan, stop it," she murmured without raising her eyes. "I won't stop, you're just incompetent," retorted the boy, coming down a few more steps. "Daddy should fire you today." Richard Richardson watched everything from the top of the staircase, leaning against the noble wooden railing. His crossed arms and impassive expression showed he was accustomed to his son's cruelties. As one of the richest men in New York City, owner of one of the country's largest construction companies, he had raised Ethan with every possible privilege, but apparently had forgotten to teach compassion. "Please, Master Ethan," begged Linda, still on her knees. "It was an accident. I was cleaning, and it slipped from my hand." "Liar!" Ethan came down a few more steps, now closer. "I saw you running through the hallway like a crazy person. I bet you were stealing something." The boy's words were like daggers to Linda's heart. In 3 years working in that house, she had never touched anything that wasn't for cleaning. Her honesty was something she valued above all, a teaching she had received from her late mother. "I would never steal anything, Master Ethan," she said with a choked voice. "I was running because I got a call from the hospital. My daughter, she had a respiratory crisis. And is that my fault?" Ethan reached the bottom of the stairs, stopping right in front of her. "You have to do your job properly, not be thinking about other things." Linda felt a tear escape. Emily had been born premature and had since struggled with lung problems. The girl was everything in her life, her reason to wake up every day and face the humiliation in that house. She worked from 6 in the morning to 8 at night, every day, to afford the health insurance and expensive medicines her daughter needed. "Enough, Ethan." Richard finally came down the stairs, his deep voice echoing through the hall. "Go to your room." "But Dad, she broke Grandma Harriet's vase," protested the boy. "I said go to your room, now." Ethan huffed angrily but obeyed, not without first throwing a look of contempt at Linda. His firm steps went up the staircase again, and soon the sound of a slamming door echoed through the house. Richard approached Linda, who was still on her knees gathering the shards. "How much did the vase cost?" he asked coldly. Linda swallowed dryly. She knew that question would seal her financial fate for the next few months. "I'm not sure, Mr. Richard, but I know it's very expensive." $3,000, he replied without emotion. "It will be deducted from your salary over the next 5 months, $600 per month, more than half of her salary." Linda closed her eyes, calculating mentally. There wouldn't even be money left for bus fare. "Mr. Richard," she dared to raise her eyes, "would it be possible to spread it over more months? My daughter is sick, and I need the money for her medicines." The businessman watched her for a few seconds. Linda was a 32-year-old woman with brown hair always tied in a simple bun. Her grey uniform with a white apron was impeccable, just like she always kept the house. In the 3 years she had worked there, she had never given any reason for complaint. 8 months, he finally said, "and I don't want any more accidents like this." "Thank you, sir. Thank you very much." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. Richard went upstairs, leaving Linda alone with her thoughts. She finished cleaning the broken pieces and put the cleaning supplies away in the hallway closet. Her hands were still shaking when she picked up her phone to call the hospital. "Hello, Nurse Catherine. How is Emily?" "Hi, Linda. She's stable now but needs to stay under observation for another 2 days. The doctors want to run some additional tests." "And the cost?" "You know that's covered by the insurance, dear, But the new medicines the doctor prescribed aren't included in the plan. Linda felt the floor drop out from under her. More expenses. With the VA's deduction, she would barely have money for food for the month. How much is it? It's $450 a month. It's an imported bronchodilator, but it's what Emily needs. $450. Almost her entire net pay after the deduction. Linda leaned against the hallway wall, feeling dizzy. All right, nurse. I'll figure it out. Linda, are you sure? There's a social program at the hospital that... No need, I can manage. She hung up the phone with trembling hands. How would she get that much money? She already worked extra on weekends cleaning other houses, but even that wouldn't be enough. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Linda stayed in the kitchen doing the math in a little crumpled notebook. No matter how hard she tried, the numbers didn't add up. She would need to find more work or... Still awake? Linda turned around, startled. Ethan was in the kitchen doorway in his pajamas, with a different expression on his face. Mr. Ethan, you should be sleeping. I couldn't sleep. He approached slowly. I keep thinking about things. Linda quickly put the notebook away. She didn't want the boy to see her financial struggles. About what things? Ethan pulled up a chair and sat next to her. His childish expression contrasted with the seriousness in his eyes. My mother also cried a lot before she left. Linda felt a tightness in her chest. She knew that Catherine Richardson had passed away when Ethan was only 5 years old, but she never knew the details. I'm sorry, Mr. Ethan. She used to sit here in the kitchen just like you, doing math in a little notebook. Ethan looked at the drawer where Linda had put hers away. Daddy used to fight with her a lot. Why are you telling me this? Because you cried just like she used to cry, and I didn't like seeing it. Linda looked at him, surprised. For the first time, Ethan didn't seem like the usual cruel and spoiled boy. Is your daughter very sick? He asked. A little, but she'll be okay. Liar. I saw you talking on the phone. You need expensive medicine. Ethan got up and left the kitchen, leaving Linda confused. A few minutes later, he returned with a small shoebox in his hands. This was my mother's. He opened the box, revealing some jewelry. Daddy said it would be mine one day, but I want to give it to you. Linda was shocked. The jewelry was truly valuable, certainly worth a lot of money. Mr. Ethan, I can't accept this. Why not? Because it's not right. It's your jewelry. It was my mother's. Ethan picked up a pearl necklace. She used to wear it when she was sad. She said they were tears that turned into precious stones. The simplicity with which the boy spoke moved Linda. For the first time, she saw humanity in that spoiled child. Your mother was a very special person. She was. Ethan put the necklace away. And you are too, that's why I want to help. I can't accept, Mr. Ethan. Your father wouldn't allow it. Then let's make a deal. Ethan smiled genuinely for the first time. You teach me to be a better person and I help you with the money. How so? I want to learn to be like my mother was. She helped everyone. Daddy has pictures of her giving food to people on the street. Linda felt her eyes well up. There was something pure in that boy, beneath all the meanness he had learned. And how can I teach that? Let me help you take care of the house. I want to learn to work. The proposal was absurd. Ethan was the boss's son. He could never work as a servant in his own home. Your father would never allow it. He doesn't even need to know, Ethan perked up. During the day when he's working, you teach me, and when he gets home, I'll pretend I was playing. I don't know if that's a good idea. Please, Mrs. Linda, I promise I'll be different. There was something in the boy's eyes that touched Linda's heart. Perhaps, beneath all that cruelty, there really was a child wanting to learn to be better. All right, she agreed, but only if you promise you'll stop being mean to me. I promise. Ethan extended his small hand and Linda shook it. It was the beginning of an unlikely friendship. During the following weeks, the house's routine changed completely. While Richard was at the office, Ethan followed Linda through every room, learning to clean, organize, and care for the house he had always considered just a place of comfort. On the first day, he could barely hold the broom properly. Not like that, Mr. Ethan, Linda showed him patiently. Hold it with both hands and make gentle movements. Why does it have to be gentle? So you don't raise dust. If you sweep too hard, the dust will fly up, and then you'll have to clean everything again. Ethan tried again, this time more carefully. It was strange to see that boy, who had always had everything served on a silver platter, trying to learn basic daily tasks. "Mrs. Linda, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Why don't you get angry when I was mean to you?" Linda stopped wiping the table and looked at him. "Because you're just a child, and children sometimes do wrong things because no one taught them what's right. My father never taught me to clean the house." "It's not just about cleaning the house, Mr. Ethan. It's about respecting people, all people." Ethan continued sweeping in silence, absorbing those words. "My daughter Emily is your age," Linda continued. "If someone were mean to her, I would be very sad." "What is she like?" "She's the sweetest girl in the world. Even when she's sick, she's always smiling. She loves to draw and dreams of being a teacher." "Why doesn't she come here to the house?" Ethan's question took Linda by surprise. Because she can't. She's the maid's daughter." "So what? Your father wouldn't allow it." Ethan stopped sweeping and became thoughtful. "When I grow up, I want to meet her." "Why?" "Because I want to be friends with someone who smiles even when she's sick. She must be a very strong person." Linda smiled. It was working. Ethan really was changing. In the days that followed, the boy showed surprising dedication. He learned to fold clothes, organize the books in the library, and even cook simple dishes. More importantly, he began to treat all the house staff with respect. "Good morning, Mr. James," he greeted the gardener on a Thursday morning. James, a 60-year-old man who had worked at the house for 15 years, almost dropped the watering can in surprise. "Good morning, Mr. Ethan." "Do you need help with anything?" James looked around confused as if it were a prank. "No, thank you, Mr. Ethan." "All right then. If you need anything, just call me." Ethan continued into the house, leaving James astonished. "What a strange thing," murmured the gardener. "That boy never even looked at me before." In the kitchen, Ethan excitedly told Linda about his encounter with James. "See how good it is to be kind," she said, preparing breakfast. "Yes, Mr. James even smiled at me. People like to be treated with affection, Mr. Ethan." "Mrs. Linda, can I tell you a secret?" "Go ahead." Ethan lowered his voice as if someone might be listening. "Sometimes I get too lonely. My father works a lot, and I don't have any real friends." "Why don't you have friends?" "Because at school everyone is afraid of me, or they want to be my friends just because my father is rich." Linda felt sorry for the boy. Behind all that wealth and privilege, Ethan was just a lonely child. "And how do you figure out who your true friends are?" "I haven't figured it out yet." Ethan played with a piece of bread. "But I think a true friend is someone who likes you even when you're mean." "Why do you think that?" "Because you kept being good to me, even when I was horrible." Linda was moved by the child's sincerity. "You weren't horrible, Mr. Ethan, you were just lost. And now I'm not anymore? I think you're finding your way." Ethan smiled and went back to eating his breakfast. Linda watched him thoughtfully. There really was a transformation happening in that boy. Later that morning, while they were cleaning the library, Ethan made a discovery that would change everything. "Mrs. Linda, look at this." He was flipping through an old photo album. "It's my mother when she was young." Linda came closer to see. The photo showed a young, elegant woman with a radiant smile. She was very beautiful. She was. Ethan turned the page. "Look, here she is, pregnant with me." The next photo showed Catherine with a rounded belly, next to Richard, both smiling. "They looked happy," commented Linda. "They were. Before I was born." Ethan turned a few more pages. "After, I don't know what happened." One photo caught Linda's attention. Catherine was in a hospital, holding a baby in her arms. But there was something strange about the image. The woman looked sad, with eyes swollen from crying. "Mr. Ethan, is this photo from when you were born?" "No. This one is older. Look at the date. 2 years before I was born." Linda looked at the photo more carefully. Catherine really did look younger, and the baby in her arms didn't look like Ethan. "Who is this baby then?" "I don't know. Ethan shrugged. I've never seen this photo before. Linda felt something strange, as if that image awakened a distant memory. There was something familiar about the baby's face, but she couldn't identify what. Can I see it again? Ethan handed her the album. Linda studied the photo carefully. The baby had delicate features, light brown hair. Suddenly, her heart raced. Mr. Ethan, what hospital is this? Ethan read the note on the back of the photo. Mercy Medical Center. Why? Linda felt her legs tremble. Mercy Medical Center was where Emily was hospitalized. It was also where she herself had been born, 32 years ago. Did your mother have another child before you? Not that I know of. Ethan noticed that Linda was pale. Mrs. Linda, are you all right? Linda couldn't answer. A terrible theory began to form in her mind. The dates, the hospital, the baby's appearance. Mr. Ethan, I need to leave early today. Why? Did something happen to Emily? No. I need to take care of some things. Linda put the album back in its place and quickly left the library, leaving Ethan confused. That afternoon, Linda went to her Aunt Barbara's house in the Brooklyn neighborhood. Barbara was the only family she had left, her late mother's older sister. Hi, dear. Barbara opened the door. What a surprise. Weren't you working today? Aunt, I need to talk to you about my mother. What do you want to know? Linda showed the photo she had taken with her cell phone. Do you recognize this woman? Barbara adjusted her glasses and looked at the image. My God, it's Catherine. You knew her? Of course I knew. Barbara sat down heavily in the chair. She was your mother's employer. Linda felt the world spinning. What do you mean? Your mother worked for the Richardson family when you were a baby. Catherine was a very good woman. She treated Rose like family. My mother never told me that. Because it was a very difficult time for her, Barbara sighed. And for Catherine, too. What kind of difficulty? Barbara hesitated before answering. Dear, are you sure you want to know? I am. Catherine couldn't have children. She had a uterine problem. She and her husband tried for years, did several treatments, but nothing worked. Linda felt a chill in her stomach. And then? One day your mother came here crying, saying she was pregnant and couldn't raise the child. The father had abandoned her, and she barely had money to support herself. My mother thought about not having me. Not exactly. Barbara took Linda's hand. Catherine made a proposal to your mother. What proposal? That she have the baby and give it to her to raise. In return, she would pay all the medical expenses and give a good amount of money for your mother to start over. Linda felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. My mother agreed. At first, yes. She was desperate with no options. Catherine was wonderful, paid everything properly, took care of her throughout the pregnancy. But then why did I stay with my mother? Because when you were born, your mother couldn't give you up. Barbara began to cry. She looked at you and said it didn't matter if she had to live under a bridge, she wouldn't give you to anyone. Linda was in total shock. Her whole life made sense now. Her mother's poverty, the constant struggle for money, the sacrifices. And Catherine? She was devastated. She had emotionally prepared to be your mother for 9 months. When your mother changed her mind, she fell into a deep depression. But she had Ethan later. Yes, a few years later she managed to get pregnant naturally. It was a miracle, according to the doctors, but she never fully recovered from that frustration. Linda could no longer hold back the tears. Why did my mother never tell me any of this? Because she was ashamed. She knew she had done the right thing, but felt guilty for misleading Catherine. And why did she go back to work for them? She didn't. Are you working for them by coincidence? Linda nodded. My God, what a complicated situation. Aunt, does Mr. Richard know anything? I don't know, dear. At the time, Catherine handled everything. Her husband worked too much and let her take care of these matters. Linda was silent for a few minutes, absorbing all that information. Aunt, I could have been Ethan's sister. In a way, you were raised by the same person for 9 months, Barbara smiled sadly. Catherine always said you were like a daughter to her, even before you were born. Dear listener, If you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Linda went home that night with her mind in a whirl. How to tell Ethan that she could have been his sister. How to deal with the fact that her mother had practically sold her before changing her mind. Even more confusing was the feeling towards Catherine, the woman who could have been her mother, who cared for her during the pregnancy, who loved her even before meeting her. The next day, Ethan noticed immediately that something was different. "Mrs. Johnson, did you sleep poorly?" "A little. Is it because of the photo we saw yesterday?" Linda stopped cleaning and looked at him. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you seemed off after seeing that baby picture." "Mr. Ethan, may I ask a personal question?" "Go ahead." "Do you know anything about how your parents tried to have children?" Ethan seemed embarrassed. "A little. I overheard some conversations when I was younger." "What did you hear?" "That my mother couldn't get pregnant. That they spent a lot of money on doctors, and that once they almost adopted a baby, but it fell through." Linda's heart raced. "Do you know more details about that adoption?" "No, just that my mother was very sad when it didn't work out. Daddy said she cried for months." "And the baby in the photo?" "I don't know. Maybe it was a photo from when she was taking care of a friend's baby." Linda realized Ethan had no idea about the truth, and perhaps it was better that way. That afternoon, while organizing Richard's office, Linda had an idea. If she could find more information about the past, maybe she could better understand the whole situation. She knew she shouldn't mess with her boss's personal things, but curiosity was stronger. In a locked desk drawer, she found a key hidden behind a picture frame. Inside the drawer were several old documents, certificates, and a folder with the name Family Project. With trembling hands, Linda opened the folder. There were all the documents from the adoption attempt, contracts, medical exams, and photos of her pregnant mother. There was also a handwritten letter by Catherine. "My dear baby, you haven't been born yet, but I already love you so much. During these 9 months, I talked to you every day, imagining what it would be like to have you in my arms. Your birth mother, Rose, is a brave woman who is giving us the greatest gift in the world. I've already prepared your room with the softest colors and the cutest toys. Your daddy, Richard, is also eager to meet you. He already bought a bicycle for when you grow up. I can't wait to rock you, to bathe you, to teach you your first words. I will love you as if I had carried you in my womb. Your future mommy, Catherine." Linda cried reading that letter. Catherine had truly loved her even before she was born, and probably suffered greatly when she couldn't keep her. At the bottom of the folder, she found something even more shocking: a blank birth certificate with the name already filled in Linda Richardson. She would have been a Richardson. She would have been Ethan's sister. The sound of the front door opening made her put everything away quickly. Richard had come home early from work. "Linda!" His voice echoed through the house. "Yes, sir," she answered, quickly leaving the office. "Where is Ethan?" "In his room, doing homework." Richard seemed surprised. "Doing homework? Without anyone telling him to?" "Yes, sir. He's been doing it every day." "That's strange. I usually have to argue with him." Richard went upstairs, leaving Linda alone with her thoughts. The discovery of those documents changed everything. Now she knew that Catherine had truly planned for her as a daughter, that she had even prepared official documents for the adoption. Later, when Ethan came down for dinner, Linda noticed the interaction between father and son. "How was school today?" asked Richard, serving the food. "It was good. I got a good grade on the math test." "Really? Without a tutor?" "Yes. Mrs. Johnson taught me an easier way to solve the problems." Richard looked surprised at Linda. "You taught him math?" "I just helped with the homework, Mr. Richard, when I finish my work." "And why did you do that?" Linda hesitated. "I couldn't tell about the secret agreement with Ethan. He asked for help and I helped." "Interesting." Richard continued eating. "Ethan, your grades have really improved these past few weeks." "Improved?" "The coordinator called me today, said you're being more polite to your classmates and paying more attention in class." Ethan smiled proudly. "It's because I'm learning new things." "What kind of things?" Ethan glanced quickly at Linda, remembering the agreement not to tell about the home lessons. Things about being a better person. And who's teaching you these things? Life, Ethan answered philosophically. Richard laughed at his son's response. Life? You're only 9 years old, but I've already learned that being mean doesn't make people like us. And where did you learn that? Ethan looked at Linda again. By observing. After dinner, Richard called Linda into the kitchen. Linda, I need to speak with you. Of course, sir. I don't know what you've been doing, but my son is different. More mature, more responsible. He's a very smart boy, Mr. Richardson. He's always been smart, but now he's more human. The word human hit Linda right in the heart. That was exactly what she'd been trying to teach Ethan. Maybe he just needed attention, she said. He's always had attention, has everything he wants. I don't mean material things. Richard stayed silent for a few seconds. Do you think I don't give enough attention to my son? It's not my place to judge, Mr. Richardson. But you have an opinion. What is it? Linda hesitated. She didn't want to sound impertinent, but there was something in Richard's question that seemed genuine. I think young Ethan just wanted someone to talk with him. Really talk. How so? He tells me things. About school, about friends, about how he feels. They're simple conversations but important to him. And I don't do that? You work very hard. It's normal that you don't have time. But maybe I should make time. Richard seemed thoughtful. Since Catherine passed, I think I've taken refuge in work. Young Ethan talks about Mrs. Catherine often. He barely remembers her. He was only 5 years old. But he remembers the affection she showed. Catherine was an amazing mother. Richard smiled sadly. She dedicated every minute of the day to Ethan. I always thought it was excessive, but now I see that maybe it was necessary. Why was it excessive? Because she treated Ethan like he was too special, like she was afraid of losing him. Linda understood. After nearly losing a daughter in adoption, Catherine had probably overprotected Ethan. Perhaps she knew that a mother's love is the most important thing in a child's life. You're right, Richard observed her more closely. You're a mother too, aren't you? I am. I have a 5-year-old daughter. And how do you balance work with motherhood? I don't balance. Linda laughed sadly. I work so I can be a mother. How so? Everything I do is to give a better life for my daughter. Work is just the means, not the end. Richard became thoughtful. I think I've reversed my priorities. I work so much that I've forgotten the main objective. What was the objective? To give a good life for my son. But I ended up giving only material things. It's never too late to change, Mr. Richardson. You're right. Maybe I should spend more time with Ethan. I'm sure he'd like that very much. That night, Linda went to bed thinking about the conversation with Richard. It seemed that Ethan's transformation was influencing his father too. The next day she got a surprise. Richard appeared in the kitchen during lunch, something he'd never done before. Dad? Ethan was surprised. Aren't you supposed to be working? I decided to have lunch at home today. May I? Of course. Ethan got excited. During lunch, Richard did something he had never done before. He asked for details about his son's day. How was gym class? Cool. We played soccer. I scored 2 goals. Really? I didn't know you were good at soccer. I taught myself during recess. And do you have friends to play with you? Ethan hesitated. Some, but most are afraid of me. Afraid? Why? Because they think I'll tell you if they do something wrong. Richard realized his reputation was affecting his son's social life. And would you tell? Before maybe I would, not now. Why did you change your mind? Ethan looked at Linda before answering. Because I learned that friends don't do that to each other. And who taught you that? Ms. Linda. She said a true friend is someone who stands by you in difficult times, not someone who turns you in when you make a mistake. Richard looked at Linda with an expression she couldn't decipher. Linda, have you been talking to my son a lot? Sometimes when I finish my work and he has nothing to do. And what do you talk about? Simple things. About school, about friendship, about life. Interesting. Richard finished his plate. Ethan, how about we do something together this weekend? Like what? I don't know. What would you like to do? Ethan thought for a few seconds. We could visit Miss Linda's daughter in the hospital. The suggestion took both Richard and Linda by surprise. What do you mean? She's hospitalized with breathing problems. Miss Linda is worried. We could bring some toys or candy. Richard looked at Linda, who was visibly moved by the suggestion. Would you mind if we visited your daughter? It would. It would be wonderful. Linda couldn't hold back her tears. Emily would love to meet you. Then it's decided. Saturday we'll go to the hospital. Ethan clapped excitedly. Can I bring some of my toys to give to her? You may. And candy? We'll have to ask the doctors. Sick children sometimes can't eat certain things. Ethan agreed enthusiastically. Linda was radiant. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she had a real family, even if it wasn't official. On Saturday morning, Richard, Ethan and Linda went to Mercy Medical Center. Ethan carried a bag full of toys and children's books. She's in room 307, Linda informed them as they walked down the hallway. I'm nervous, Ethan confessed. Why? What if she doesn't like me? She's going to love you, Linda smiled. Emily likes everyone. When they opened the door to the room, they found a tiny little girl lying in bed, with oxygen tubes in her nose, but with a radiant smile on her face. Mommy! Emily stretched out her little arms. Linda rushed to hug her daughter. My princess, how are you? Better. The nurse said I might be able to go home next week. What wonderful news! Emily noticed Richard and Ethan standing at the door. Who are they, Mommy? They're Mommy's friends. They came to visit you. Ethan approached timidly. Hi, Emily. I'm Ethan. Hi. Emily smiled. You're my cousin Jessica's age. I brought some toys for you. Ethan placed the bag on the table next to the bed. If you want. Emily perked up. Can I see? Of course. Ethan began taking the toys out of the bag. Dolls, coloring books, puzzles, toy cars. Wow, there are so many. Emily was delighted. You can choose the ones you like best. But they're your toys, I can't keep them. Emily's response surprised Ethan. He was used to children who wanted to take everything he offered. I want to give them to you, for you to play with here in the hospital. Are you sure? Yes. I have lots of toys at home. These are for you. Emily looked at Linda for permission. You can accept, dear. Ethan is being very generous. Thank you, Ethan. Emily hugged a teddy bear. You're so kind. Ethan felt a strange sensation in his chest. He had never felt so good making someone happy. During the visit, Richard observed the interaction between the children. Ethan showed a patience and tenderness he had never seen before. Emily, even though sick, radiated a contagious joy. Linda, Richard called her to a corner of the room. May I pay for your daughter's treatment? Mr. Richard, you don't have to. I want to do this, not as an employer, but as a friend. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just accept. Ethan cares about you, and I care about what makes my son happy. Linda couldn't hold back her tears. Thank you so much. One condition. I want Emily to spend some weekends at our house when she's better. Ethan needs a true friend. He already has one. Linda smiled through her tears. He has you. Richard smiled too. And I have both of you. That afternoon, when they returned home, Ethan was beaming. Dad, Emily is so cool. She wasn't even a little bit sad about being sick. She is a special girl indeed. And Mrs. Linda takes such good care of her, just like you used to take care of me when I was little. Just like I still do, Richard corrected. Now you do. But you had stopped for a while. Ethan's innocent observation hit Richard hard. You were right. Daddy had been working too much and forgetting what was most important. And what is most important? You. Our family. Ethan smiled and hugged his father. Now our family has grown. We have Mrs. Linda and Emily too. Yes, we do, Richard agreed, hugging his son. In the following weeks, the dynamic of the house changed completely. Richard started working fewer hours to spend more time with Ethan. The two did homework together, played soccer in the yard, and talked about everything. Linda continued working in the house, but now she felt more like part of the family than an employee. Emily was discharged from the hospital and started visiting the house on weekends, becoming Ethan's best friend. Mrs. Linda. Ethan sought her out on a Thursday afternoon. "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Would you like to have more children?" The question took Linda by surprise. "Why do you ask that?" "Because I think you would be a wonderful mother to any child." "You think so?" "I do. You've taught me things no one else ever has. And you're not even my real mother. But you have a wonderful father." "I do, but you're special too." Linda was moved by Ethan's words. "Thank you. That means a lot to me." "Mrs. Linda, can I tell you a secret?" "You may." "Sometimes I pretend that you are my second mother, and that Emily is my sister." Linda's heart raced. His heart. "If Ethan only knew she had almost been his sister for real. And how does that make you feel?" "Good, really good. Like our family is complete." That night, Linda couldn't sleep, thinking about Ethan's words. She decided it was time to tell Richard the truth. The next morning, while Ethan was at school, she went to see Richard in his office. "Mr. Richard, I need to speak with you about something very important." "Of course, have a seat." Linda took a deep breath before she began. "It has to do with my family and yours, with the past." "What do you mean?" "My mother worked here in your house 32 years ago." Richard was surprised. "Worked here? For Mrs. Catherine? During my pregnancy?" "Your pregnancy? But you're 32. Richard did the math and paled. "It can't be." "Yes, Mr. Richard. I am the baby your wife tried to adopt." The silence in the office was absolute for several seconds. You are Rose's daughter?" "I am." Richard rose from his chair, clearly shaken. "My God, why did you never say anything?" "Because I found out not long ago. I found old documents and photos, talked to my aunt." "And you decided to work here knowing this?" "No, sir. I started working here before I knew. It was a coincidence." "Coincidence?" Richard ran his hand through his hair. "Catherine always said she didn't believe in coincidences." "Did she suffer a lot when my mother changed her mind?" "A lot. She fell into a terrible depression. I thought she'd never be the same again." "I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault, nor your mother's." Richard sat down again. "Catherine always said she understood the decision, that any mother would have done the same thing. Even so, it must have been painful." "It was, but when Ethan was born, she recovered completely. She said he was the child who was destined to be ours." Linda smiled. "He is a wonderful boy." "Yes," Richard observed her more closely, "and you are also a wonderful person. Perhaps everything happened as it should have." "How so?" "If Catherine had adopted you, you would never have had Emily, and Ethan would never have learned the lessons you taught him." "You're not angry with me for not telling you sooner?" "No. I understand why you didn't tell. It must have been a shock to discover all this." "It was." "Linda, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Do you resent not having been raised here, with all the privileges you would have had?" Linda thought for a few seconds before answering. "No, Mr. Richard. My mother gave me something that no money can buy." "What?" "Values, humility, the ability to be moved by simple things. If I had grown up rich, I might have been like Ethan was before, spoiled and without compassion. Ethan wasn't like that because he was rich. He was like that because I didn't know how to raise him. And now you do, and he's becoming a wonderful man. Thanks to you. Thanks to love, which is what every child needs." Richard was silent for a few minutes. "Linda, I need to make you a proposal." "What proposal?" "I want Ethan to know the truth. About you. About the past." "Are you sure?" "I am. He deserves to know." and I think he would be happy to know that you almost were his sister. What if he reacts badly? He won't react badly. Ethan loves you like family. Knowing you almost were real siblings will only make him happier. When Ethan came home from school that afternoon, he found Linda and Richard waiting for him in the living room. "Did something happen?" he asked worriedly. "No, son. On the contrary. We have something wonderful to tell you." "What is it?" Richard and Linda exchanged glances. "Ethan," Richard began, "remember that photo you saw in the album? The baby in the hospital?" "I remember." "That baby was Linda." Ethan looked confused from one to the other. "What do you mean?" "Your mother tried to adopt Linda when she was a baby," explained Richard. "If it had worked out, you would be siblings." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Really?" "Really," confirmed Linda. "Your mother took care of me throughout the pregnancy. I almost was your sister." Ethan ran and hugged Linda tightly. "Then you are my sister in my heart." "Yes, I am." Linda hugged the boy, crying with emotion. "And Emily is my niece." "Yes, she is." "Dad, does this mean we're a real family now?" Richard joined the hug. "We always were, son. We just didn't know." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out, now continuing. In the months that followed, the Richardson house was completely transformed. Linda was no longer just an employee, but an integral part of the family. Richard insisted that she stop doing housekeeping and take on an administrative position in the company, handling the construction firm's social projects. Emily had fully recovered from her respiratory problems and began living at the mansion during the week, sharing a room with Ethan, who insisted on adding an extra bed for his niece. "Linda," Richard approached her one Friday afternoon, "I need to speak with you about something." "Of course." "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, about the past, about Catherine, about you. What did you conclude?" "That perhaps none of this was a coincidence. Maybe you were always meant to be part of our family. It just wasn't the right time." "How so?" "If Catherine had adopted you, you would have grown up privileged, but perhaps you wouldn't have developed the compassion and wisdom you have today. Ethan needed someone like you became, not like you would have been if raised wealthy. That's an interesting way of looking at things. And there's more." Richard took a deep breath. "I want to make our situation official." "Official how?" "I want to adopt you and Emily. I want you to be real Richardsons." Linda was shocked. "Mr. Richardson, I'm 32 years old. I don't need to be adopted." "Yes, you do. So Ethan can have the sister he should have had all along. So Emily can have the father she never had. So I can have the complete family Catherine always wanted." "And if I say yes?" "Then we'll be officially a family. You'll inherit part of the estate. Emily will attend the best schools, and neither of you will ever have to worry about money again." "It's not for the money that I would do this. I know, and that's exactly why I want to do it." Linda looked out the office window, watching Ethan and Emily playing in the garden. The two were laughing and running like real siblings. "They're already a family," she said, "and you're what keeps this family together. What do you think?" Linda smiled with tears in her eyes. "I think Mrs. Catherine would be happy." "She would. She always said family isn't about blood, it's about love." "Then I accept." Richard smiled and hugged Linda. "Welcome to the Richardson family. Officially." 6 months later, in a simple ceremony at the courthouse, Linda Johnson became Linda Johnson Richardson, and Emily Johnson became Emily Johnson Richardson. Ethan was beaming, wearing a little suit and holding a bouquet of flowers. "Now it's official," he told Emily after the ceremony. "You're my official niece, and you're my official uncle." Emily laughed. "Uncle Ethan Richardson," he formally introduced himself. "Pleased to be your family." "Pleased too, Uncle Ethan." Richard watched the scene with a smile on his face. Beside him, Linda held a photo of Catherine. "Do you think she would approve?" asked Linda. "I'm sure. Catherine always said fate has mysterious ways of fixing what didn't work out the first time." "And did it work out this time?" "More than worked out." Richard put his arm around her shoulders. "It worked out perfectly." That evening at their first official dinner as the Richardson family, Ethan made a toast with grape juice. I want to thank God for giving us such a special family, and I want to especially thank my sister Linda, who taught me that being truly rich has nothing to do with money. What does it have to do with? Asked Emily. It has to do with having people who truly love you, even when you're mean. Ethan looked at Linda. And who help you become a better person. And I want to thank, said Richard, for having learned that working hard means nothing if you have no one to share the results of your work with. And I, said Linda, want to thank for having discovered that sometimes what seems like the end of a story is just the beginning of a much better one. And I, said Emily, not wanting to be left out, want to thank for having gained an uncle, a grandfather, and a new house with a giant garden. Everyone laughed at the girl's adorable simplicity. 1 year later, the Richardson family was gathered at Mercy Medical Center for a very special occasion. Emily, now 7 years old and completely healthy, was handing out toys to the hospitalized children. This project was my Uncle Ethan's idea, she explained to the nurses. He said every sick child should have toys so they don't feel sad. Ethan, now 11 years old, was coordinating the gift distribution with the seriousness of an adult. Aunt Linda, do you think we brought enough toys? I think so. And if it's not enough, we'll come back next week with more. Will we really come back? Of course. This project is now permanent at the company. Richard watched the scene with pride. The Richardson Construction Company had created a specific department for social projects, coordinated by Linda. They donated toys, paid for medical treatments for underprivileged children, and maintained a daycare in the neighborhood where Linda had grown up. Dad, Ethan approached. Thank you. For what, son? For letting Aunt Linda, teach me how to be a better person. She didn't need to teach you, Ethan. She just needed to show you what was already inside you. And what was inside me? The good heart you inherited from your mother, and the determination you inherited from me. And from Aunt Linda, what did I inherit? Wisdom, and the ability to love without expecting anything in return. Ethan smiled and went back to Emily, who was telling stories to a group of hospitalized children. Aunt Linda, one of the nurses approached. Can I ask a personal question? Of course. How did you manage to turn that spoiled boy into the generous young man he is today? Linda looked at Ethan, who was helping a small child open a present. I didn't change anything. I just showed him that everyone has pain, everyone needs affection, and everyone deserves a second chance. That's all. And patience. A lot of patience. It must have been difficult at first. It was. But it was worth it, Linda smiled. In the end, he taught me more than I taught him. What did he teach you? That sometimes people are mean because no one ever loved them properly, and that when you truly love someone, that person naturally changes. That afternoon when they returned home, Ethan had a surprise for the family. He had prepared dinner by himself with the cook's help. Wow, exclaimed Emily. You know how to cook, Uncle Ethan? I learned from Aunt Linda. She said every man should know how to take care of the home and family. And you learned well, praised Richard, tasting the food. It's delicious. Thank you, Dad. I wanted to do something special to celebrate. Celebrate what? Asked Linda. The day our family became complete. What day was that? The day Aunt Linda heard my cry and decided to help me, instead of judging me. Linda was moved by the boy's words. I heard your cry, Ethan? Yes, you did. Only it wasn't a cry of tears. It was a cry of loneliness, of sadness, of not knowing how to be a good person. And how did you know I heard it? Because you didn't give up on me, even when I was horrible to you. Do you know why I didn't give up? Why? Because you reminded me of myself when I was a child. I was also sad. I also felt alone. The difference is that you had everything material, but you didn't have love. And I had nothing material, but I had my mother's love. And now? Now we have both. Love and security. A complete family. Ethan stood up and hugged Linda. Thank you for hearing my cry, Aunt Linda. Thank you for letting me help, Ethan. And thank you, said Richard, for teaching me that family isn't about working to give everything to those we love. It's about being present for those we love. And thank you, said Emily, for giving me the best family in the world. Everyone laughed and hugged in a circle. 2 years later, Ethan was graduating from middle school with the best grades in his class. At the graduation ceremony, he was called to give a speech as the class representative. "My dear classmates and families," Ethan began into the microphone, "I want to talk about the most important thing I've learned during these school years." The audience fell silent. "I learned that no one is born knowing how to be a good person. That's something you learn, and you only learn it by example." Linda in the audience was moved. "I was lucky to have wonderful examples in my life. My father, who taught me that working hard is important, but that love is even more important. My Aunt Linda, who taught me that kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. And my cousin Emily, who taught me that the joy of living doesn't depend on having everything perfect. It depends on appreciating what you have." The audience applauded. "But the most important thing I learned is that everyone deserves a second chance, including ourselves. If you think you've made too many mistakes, that you've been too mean, that you don't deserve to be happy, remember, it's always possible to start over. It's always possible to be better." Ethan paused and looked directly at Linda. "And sometimes the person who will help you start over might be right in front of you. You just don't see it because you're looking in the wrong place." The applause was long and emotional. After the ceremony, the family went out to dinner to celebrate. "Ethan," said Richard, "I'm very proud of your speech, and even prouder of the man you're becoming. Thank you, Dad, but I'm only becoming this because I had good teachers. And now? What do you want to do in high school?" "I want to study business, to one day help run the company's social projects." "Really? Really? I want to help other families like ours was helped." "How so?" "I want to create more projects for underprivileged children. I want to build schools, hospitals, daycare centers. I want to use our wealth to reduce other people's poverty." Linda smiled proudly. "That's a beautiful dream, Ethan." "It's the dream you taught me to have, Aunt Linda." "I didn't teach you to dream. I just showed you that there are people who need help. And you taught me that helping is good for the helper too." "How so?" "Because before I met you, I had everything, but I wasn't happy. Now I have everything and I'm happy. The difference is that now I share." That night, already at home, Linda was arranging the graduation photos when Ethan approached. "Aunt Linda, can I ask you a question?" "You always can. Do you regret anything?" "How so?" "Do you regret not being adopted by my mother when you were a baby?" Linda thought for a few seconds. "No, Ethan, I don't regret it." "Why?" "Because if I had been adopted, I never would have had Emily. And maybe you and I would never have become so close." "Why wouldn't we have become close?" "Because if I had grown up rich, maybe I wouldn't have learned to have patience with spoiled children." Linda smiled playfully. "Hey!" Ethan protested, laughing. "I wasn't spoiled, I was special." "Yes, you were spoiled," Linda laughed. "But you were a spoiled kid with a good heart. And now? Now you're a young man with a good heart who knows how to appreciate what he has. Aunt Linda, can I tell you a secret?" "Go ahead." "Sometimes I pretend that you're my real older sister, not just in my heart." "Why do you pretend that?" "Because I like the feeling of having someone who takes care of me, not because they have to, but because they want to." "But your father also takes care of you because he wants to." "Yes, but he's a father. It's different. A sibling is someone who chooses to stand by your side even when they don't have to." Linda hugged Ethan. "Then we're siblings by choice, which is even more special." "Why?" "Because you don't choose a blood sibling, you're born with them. A sibling by choice you earn with love." Ethan smiled and hugged Linda tighter. "I love you, my sister by choice." "I love you too, my heart brother." 5 years had passed. Ethan was now in college, studying business administration, and Emily was in high school, dreaming of becoming a pediatrician. The Richardson family had become a reference for social projects in New York City. Linda was in her office when she received an unexpected call. "Hello?" "Linda, this is Mercy Medical Center Maternity Ward. There's a woman here who wants to speak with you." "With me? About what?" "About adoption. She said she heard about your case and wants to talk." "My case?" "About when your mother almost gave you up for adoption and then changed her mind. The story spread through the hospital. Linda was surprised. She didn't know her story had become known. "Can you ask her to come to my office tomorrow morning?" "Yes, I can." The next day, a 19-year-old woman showed up at the construction company office. She was pregnant and seemed very nervous. "Are you Linda?" she asked timidly. "I am. Come in, have a seat." "My name is Ashley. I'm 7 months pregnant and I'm thinking about giving my baby up for adoption." "And why did you come to talk to me?" "Because a nurse at the hospital told me your story. She said your mother almost gave you up for adoption but changed her mind at the last minute." "That's true. And she said even though you were raised poor, you made something of yourself, that now you're rich and happy." Linda understood where the conversation was going. "Ashley, would you like to tell me about your situation? I'm 19, I have no family, no money. The baby's father left me when he found out I was pregnant." "And why are you thinking about giving your baby up for adoption?" "Because I can't afford to raise a child. I can barely support myself." "And why did you come to talk to me?" "Because I wanted to know if you regret being raised poor, if it's worth fighting to keep the baby even without money." Linda was moved by the question. "Ashley, can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "Do you love this baby?" Ashley started to cry. "I love him so much. That's why I'm thinking about adoption, because I want him to have a better life than I can give him." "And you think love isn't enough?" "I don't know. My mother loved me very much, but she died when I was 15 and left me with nothing." "And even so, do you miss her?" "Every day." "Then you know her love was worth it, even without money." Ashley stopped crying and became thoughtful. "That's true. Ashley, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Every situation is unique. But I can tell you about my experience. Please. I grew up poor, but with lots of love. I went through hard times, worked since I was a child, sometimes didn't have enough to eat. But I never felt abandoned or worthless." "And do you regret not being rich?" "No. Because poverty taught me values that money can't teach. It taught me to appreciate simple things, to have empathy for others, to fight for what I want." "And how did you become rich later?" "Through work, education, and especially the lessons I learned from being poor. If I'd been born rich, maybe I never would have developed the qualities that brought me here." Ashley listened attentively. "But that doesn't mean everyone born poor will become rich one day," Linda continued. "It means being poor doesn't stop you from being happy and fulfilled." "And what if I can't give my child a good life?" "Ashley, a good life isn't about having money. A good life is about having love, emotional security, values, education, and those things a dedicated mother can give no matter how much money she has. But education is expensive. There are public schools, and the most important education, which is about values and character, you give at home for free." Ashley was silent for a few minutes. "Linda, can I ask another question?" "Of course. If you were me, what would you do?" "If I were you, I'd ask myself, what's most important? To give my son everything that money can buy, or to give him everything that the heart can give? And what if I want to give both? Then you fight to achieve both. You raise your child with love and work to give him the material opportunities too. And if I can't manage, then at least you tried, and your son will know he was raised with love and dedication." Ashley stood up and hugged Linda. "Thank you. You helped me decide." "And what was your decision?" "I'm going to keep my son, and I'll fight to be the best mother I can be, with or without money." "And if you need help, can I turn to you?" "Always," Linda smiled. "Our company has a support program for single mothers. We can help you with employment, daycare for the baby, medical assistance." "Really? Really? And do you know why we created this program?" "Why?" "So that no mother has to choose between loving her child and giving him a dignified life." Ashley left the office beaming. Linda kept thinking about how life takes interesting turns. Her personal story had turned into inspiration for other people. That evening during dinner, she told the family about Ashley. "What a beautiful story," said Emily. "She made the right choice." "How can you be sure?" asked Ethan. Because a mother who loves her child so much that she considers adoption, thinking of his well-being, is a mother who will do anything to give the best to that child. It's true, agreed Richard. True love always finds a way. Just like happened with us, said Ethan. It could have all gone wrong, but love made it work. And it will keep working, said Linda, because true love doesn't end, it only grows. 2 months later, Ashley gave birth to a beautiful, healthy boy. Linda was at the hospital on the day of the birth. What will his name be? Asked Linda. Ethan, in honor of your brother, who inspired me through his story. Linda was moved. He will be very honored. And will he be the godfather? I'm sure he'll accept. And he did. Ethan became the godfather of little Ethan, and the Richardson family adopted Ashley as part of their extended family, helping her with employment, housing, and baby care. At little Ethan's first birthday party, the whole family was gathered. Aunt Linda, the older Ethan, pulled Linda aside. I want to thank you for something. For what? For teaching me that our story doesn't end with us, that we can use what we've learned to help other people. How so? Ashley only decided to keep the baby because our story inspired her. Now she has a beautiful son and is building a new life. That's true. And how many other people could be helped if we tell our story? Where are you going with this, Ethan? I want to write a book about our family, about how love can transform people. A book? Yes. I want to show other people that it doesn't matter where you come from or what mistakes you've made. It's always possible to start over when you have true love in your life. Linda smiled proudly. It's a wonderful idea. Will you help me write it? Of course, but you have to include a special dedication. To whom? To your mother, Catherine, who started our story without even knowing it, and to your mother, Rose, who made the most difficult choice of her life, and to Ashley, who reminded us that our story keeps helping other people, and to Dad, who learned that family is more important than work, and to Emily, who teaches us every day that joy doesn't depend on having everything perfect. Ethan hugged Linda. Our story is truly beautiful, isn't it? It's the most beautiful one I know, because it's real. And the best part is that it's not over yet. How so? Because every time we help someone, the story continues, in a new family, with new people, but with the same love. Linda looked around the party. Richard was playing with little Ethan on his lap. Emily was helping Ashley serve the cake. Children of various ages were running around the garden, including some from the company's social projects. It was truly a large family, united not by blood, but by love and the choice to care for one another. Ethan, said Linda, do you know what the book's title will be? What? The Billionaire's son heard the janitor crying and said something unbelievable. And what was this unbelievable thing I said? That you wanted to learn to be a better person. At the time it seemed unbelievable because you were just a spoiled child, but today I see it was the wisest sentence I've ever heard. Why? Because recognizing that we need to improve is the first step to truly improving. And the second step? Accepting help from those who love us. And the third? Using what we've learned to help other people. Ethan smiled. So we've completed the 3 steps? We have. And now we're going to help other people complete theirs. Forever, forever. And that's how the Richardson family discovered that the best stories are those that have no end because they turn into inspiration for new stories in an endless chain of love and transformation. End of story. Now tell me, what did you think of Ethan's transformation? Do you believe a spoiled child can really change with love and patience? Leave your opinion in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. If this story touched your heart, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories about family and overcoming challenges.